Sandy says read, and welcome to the channel. Today we are going to do the July wrap-up, but we are incorporating the Jane Austen in July wrap-up into this. That means, you guys, I'm going to put a ton of timestamps in the drop-down box below, so you don't have to sit through the regular wrap-up of this channel if you don't want to. If you're just here for Jane, you can go straight to the Jane Austen section. Okay, so the timestamps will be below, and I have a little ticker that I have made, a little ticker banner that I'll put across the bottom of the screen if I remember to do that. You guys, I am heavily medicated, so my brain is not fully with us today. I might forget to click the little thing. You know, y'all can take bets on that before we begin. So let's start with the health update. Let's just get that out of the way. I'm not going to go fully in depth into it because you guys probably don't want to sit through that. And if you're subscribed to my newsletter, you probably know a little bit about it. I wrote here, I'm heavily medicated for extra stuff, but the random vertigo continues to happen. The vertigo continues to happen mostly after I've done the exercises from physical therapy. But not as much just throughout my life. So maybe the physical therapy is working. Maybe. I'm not entirely sold on it. There's some stuff happening that makes me just want to quit it all. You guys, it's going to be fine. It's going to be great. So let's move on to the next section in the wrap-up, writing. I've got 2 projects I'm working on, or I'm delving into, and I need to make a decision on which one to focus on. As you can see, the brain is firing into weird ways. So I need to figure out which one and focus and let myself focus. Okay. And also the 3-day novel contest is coming up over Labor Day weekend. And I think I've decided which story idea I want to work on for that. I need to make a decision so that I can start making my character lists and taping things up around the house for that. Yeah. Okay. Next on this little list, water. I wrote down here, water and neighbors. And I also made a little note that this water and neighbors thing happened before Prime Day. No, it didn't. Did it? Prime Day happened before the water thing. You guys, I cannot keep anything straight in my life right now. There's too much wacky crap happening with the whole medical thing. So my brain is fried. Okay, so the water thing that happened. This was not something that needed to happen in my life, but here we are. You guys know, if you've been here on the channel for any length of time, if you've been following this, you know that I have crazy freaking neighbors who are really interested in everything I do. For example, one of my neighbors apparently was upset that I put up a privacy fence and was caught climbing a ladder to peer over the privacy fence, just, to keep tabs on what's happening in the yard, apparently. Anyway, that particular neighbor, she has a really nice lawn. She really does. I mean, I give her props on her lawn, and I give her props on caring about having a really nice lawn. And she likes to make new flower beds and stuff around her property. Awesome and great. I mean, you do you. If that's something you enjoy, awesome. She has created a flower bed at the back corner of our 2 properties that extends onto the easement of my property. I don't care. That's fine. Make it lovely. But that causes the water main that is on my property to be in her way. And one evening in July, she came to let me know that there's a lot of soggy ground back there. Well, it's July, it's raining a lot. Apparently this was too soggy, and she's concerned that there might be a break in a pipe or something wrong back there. I'll call the water company. We'll have them take care of it. And so I did. I called the water company right then, and they told me that they would send out a leak investigation team. I heard nothing back. They did send out a leak investigation team because, and I know this for 2 reasons. Number one, there was a blue X painted back there and a blue flag planted back there. Great. So I thought perhaps they were working on it, since that had happened, and I had heard nothing from them. So another week goes by. I'm like, this is kind of odd. I called them to say, hey, what's up? They're not doing anything back there. The problem is mine. They just didn't notify me of that. The problem is mine, and they want me to contact a plumber. They just didn't tell me that, and have a plumber come out and fix a pipe in the ground. This is going to be thousands of dollars. Okay, but fine. Now that I know it's my problem, I've contacted. There's a fellow who actually does my lawn work who. It's going to be fine. So I need to contact the 811, call 811 before you dig. So I called 811 to have them mark all of the underground lines, like the electric line, the cable line, the things that are going on back there before this contractor comes and digs to fix whatever is going on. It's become an issue. It's going to be fine. It's all going to be fine at some point. Or I'm going to sell this property to BlackRock, let them do whatever they want with this property, and I'm going to move. It's going to be fine. Next on the list. Oh yes, we should unbox a couple things. Okay, prior to that happening, we had Prime Day in July. Amazon had their Prime Day. And so I ordered 2 books because I didn't realize I was going to have a water bill of a couple $1,000s. See, I've so far, apparently I haven't let this go. So far, I have not seen any increase in my water bill here at the house. I haven't seen any change in the water pressure here at the house. I have had no indication that there's anything wrong with the water or a leak or anything like that here at the house. It's fine. Anyway, so prior to that, there was Prime Day, and I ordered 2 books that were on sale during Prime Day because I wanted to have them in my collection. One is The Legend of Sigurd and Gudrun by J.R.R. Tolkien. Is there a glare? A little bit of a glare. But you can see that one. Very nice, right? I've been wanting to have this in my collection. And Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, edited by Christopher Tolkien. This is Tolkien's interpretation of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. Glare. There you go. Yeah. We read Sir Gawain and the Green Knight in one of my middle English literature classes in college, and I enjoyed it greatly, and I thought that was wonderful. And so to have Tolkien's interpretation of it is nice, and I want to read that and absorb it and have it in my life. So for Prime Day, I gifted these to myself. More unboxing can happen now too, because after or during Imaginarium, around that time, a friend of mine, Nessa Brown, she's a subscriber to this channel, she asked me about the Fractured Fairy Tale stuff that's been going on, and she mentioned to me that an author she knows, Addie J. King, writes Fractured Fairy Tales. So Nessa purchased and sent this book to me. This is The Grimm Legacy. It's a book 1 in The Grimm Legacy by Addie J. King. And this is a shiny book, so let me try not to have a glare on it for you guys. I'm looking forward to reading this book and bringing it to you guys as part of our Fractured Fairy Tale series. And on that note, we can unbag something. You guys, this is so promotional. I apologize now. In the merch shop, I now have t-shirts that say, I like my fairy tales fractured. Can you guys see that? I know. There you go. Nice. There you go. There's also stickers, and I think I got mugs with this on it too. So if you like your fairy tales fractured, you can get t-shirts and mugs and things that say that. I'll put a link to that in the drop-down box below. Okay, that's all the unboxing and bagging that we had. Let's talk about the books, because that's what you guys are here for, books. During the month of July, I didn't read as much as we typically do. Here's a little bit going on, right? We had Jane Austen July. So I did read bits and pieces of Pride and Prejudice. One of the challenges for Jane Austen July is to reread one of her 6 main works. I was going to reread this. No, I read bits and pieces of. Right. Oh, the glare. There you go. Pride and Prejudice. There's that one. Then I did read Love and Friendship and Other Youthful Writings. This is obviously her youthful writings, Jane Austen's juvenilia, you might say. And I use the term juvenilia pretty loosely, pretty broadly, because these were written when she was a teen, but then older as well, like up to 18, age 18. Okay, and we're going to go into that one quite a bit when we get to the Jane Austen July section of this wrap-up. Also, during July, I read The Bride of Leicester by Percy J. This one we talked about when we did the mini book haul from the Million Lives Festival that took place. If I think of it, I'll put a link to that in the drop-down box below. I'm fixing to film the review of this for you guys, and I'll certainly put all the links in that review. It was a thing. Okay, so I ordered, I think 3. Yeah, I ordered 3 books from the authors who were defrauded in that. Then I read The Jane Austen Project by Kathleen A. Flynn. And this was part of my Jane Austen July challenges, sort of, kind of. And when we talk about Jane Austen July, we'll go into that a little bit too. So right over there. And now, you guys, I think we're about ready to go into the next part of this. Before we dive into Jane Austen July, let me invite you to subscribe to the channel. Please subscribe to the Sandy Says Read BookTube channel, because this is a BookTube channel of all the bookish stuff. We do BookTube tags. We do book reviews. We like to focus on indie book reviews. I do a lot of indie book spotlights, and there's a whole playlist of indie book spotlights here at the channel. We also do book wrap-ups like you see today. Now, let's see. Oh, look, guys, I'm remembering to do this. There. Why is it blue? Oh, guys, it should be purple, and I'm not going to fight with it to make it purple. It should be purple. All of my marketing is done in purple. There you go. We're diving into the Jane Austen July wrap-up section of the video now. I'll put a timestamp below so everyone can come to that. And I need to open it on my screen. You guys, I'm so prepared. All right, we've got this on the screen. The Jane Austen July Readathon for 2025. It originated with Marissa at Blatantly Bookish and Katie at Books and Things in 2018. I managed to do a couple of the challenges this year. And this is the first year that I've been able to do more than just like reread one of Jane's main works. Okay, so yeah, we did a couple things this year. We did challenge number 2, 4, 6, and 7, apparently. So let me just go over those with you real quick. Number 2, read something by Jane Austen that is not one of her main 6 novels. So we read Love and Friendship and Other Youthful Writings. We'll come back to that in a minute because I've got a whole thing to go over with you guys. Read a modern retelling of a Jane Austen book. Now, I'm not sure if this totally fits. Okay, so I read The Jane Austen Project by Kathleen A. Flynn. This is a time travel story. Okay. So it's not really a retelling of a Jane Austen book. But you guys, there are 2 main characters. There is a main character whose point of view we are in throughout the story. It's written in first-person point of view. The main character is Rachel, and she goes back in time with a fellow. The fellow, his name is Liam. Liam Finucane. Finucane? I can't pronounce his last name. It's in the key of F. Liam F. He reminded me so much of Edward Ferrars. Okay, he really did. There were so many moments when he reminded me of Edward Ferrars. Not in his arrogance. I mean, he was pretty arrogant in many moments of the story, and that didn't remind me of Edward. But his sort of wishy-washiness reminded me of Edward. And please don't come at me I'm sorry. I know Edward wasn't totally wishy-washy, but I mean, stick with me here. Edward Ferrars did have his moments when he was not standing up for what he wanted. He was remaining true to Lucy Steele, okay, but he wasn't standing up for what he wanted. And Liam does that in this book. And I'm going to do a full review of the Jane Austen Project, and you guys can watch that when I get that finally filmed and uploaded. And I'm going to discuss how Liam reminded me of Edward. Okay, there is that connection. I was seeing that connection. I mean, all the way down to the fact that before Rachel and Liam went to the past, before they did their time travel, before they went to the past, Liam was engaged to a woman, Sabina, no R, Sabina. He was engaged to her, and she's like this wealthy heiress of, I think it was like a mustard company. I will get that straight before I do the review. But she was an heiress to a fortune, and he's engaged to her. And he's engaged to her not necessarily because he loves her so much, because he proposed to her a couple of years before this Jane Austen project sent him to the past. And it's like right before they're ready to leave, she's like, oh, yes, okay, I will marry you. When you get back, we'll get married. It'll be fun. We'll get married. She did that because she saw the connection that Liam and Rachel had before they left on this time travel experiment. She saw that and was like, oh, hey, I better snag him. I better make this official before he leaves. And so she's like, yes, I will marry you, before he left. I see Lucy Steele in her in that, jealousy right there, right? But yeah, so I'm not saying that this is a retelling of Sense and Sensibility. I'm not saying that at all. It is not a retelling of Sense and Sensibility, but I'm seeing a retelling maybe of some characters. Yeah. So it's not a modern retelling of a Jane Austen book, but I think I can kind of force it to fit that challenge a little bit. Okay, what's next? The challenge number 6, watch a direct screen adaptation of a Jane Austen book. I watched Love and Friendship with Kate Beckinsale. That movie is actually Lady Susan, not Love and Friendship. I mean, Love and Friendship is a novel in, Love and Friendship is actually a novel in Love and Friendship. It's actually its own work in this. Lady Susan is its own work also in this. And in fact, I read Lady Susan last year for Jane Austen July. I watched the movie Love and Friendship, and I'm like, this is Lady Susan. Yes, it is. And yeah, and I enjoyed it for what it was. I mean, Lady Susan is a despicable character, right? She's just despicable. Okay. Number 7, watch a modern screen adaptation of a Jane Austen book. This was the Lost in Austen miniseries that I watched. And I watched, it's from 2008, but I'd not heard of it until just this year. I'd not even known it existed. So I watched the 4 episodes that make up season 1. And I got some notes here for you guys. Amanda Price is our main character, and she's played by the actress Jemima Rooper. Amanda lives in present day London. She's in Hammersmith, right? Yeah, Hammersmith, London, and she swaps places with Elizabeth Bennet. So main character all the way, right? What happens is Elizabeth Bennet appears in her bathroom one night. She comes through a portal in the wall in the bathroom, and that portal is actually a door at the upstairs end of the hall at Longbourn. And Elizabeth has found it, and she comes through, and she's talking to Elizabeth, and Elizabeth is like, oh my, Amanda is like, oh my God, you're Elizabeth Bennet. How is that possible? And Elizabeth is like, oh, you can come through, yada, yada, yada. And they get interrupted. Amanda's boyfriend interrupts them. So Elizabeth, she darts back through the doorway, And Amanda thinks she's imagined it. It's like, this isn't real, right? Well, it turns out it is real. And like, I think maybe the next day something happens and she ends up switching places with Elizabeth. Like she goes through the door and Elizabeth stays in present day. And so we follow Amanda to the past. We follow her to this alternate reality. We follow her to Longbourn, and we go to Longbourn like right as Mr. Bingley is coming to Netherfield, as he is arriving to take the house, right? And we follow this chick. She's like, when she arrives there, like her uniform doesn't change, her clothing doesn't change. So she is dressed like a modern woman in like pants and they're like yoga pants, right? They're not loose fitting. Let me put it that way. She's got on like a leather jacket. She's got on a necklace that is metal, like silver metal. She doesn't look like a person from Elizabeth Bennet's time. Not at all. Her haircut, her hair is straight and smooth and not curled at all. Yeah, she's wearing makeup, okay, when she goes through there. So she's a very different kind of person. Well, the thing is, Elizabeth has sort of paved the way for Amanda to show up there. So it's not like a complete surprise to her family. She ends up screwing everything up. So if you are a purist and if you're a Pride and Prejudice purist, you are going to be very upset by just about everything that happens in this little mini series. But if you can go into it just ready for some mayhem and chaos and cleverness and silliness, you'll be okay. Okay. Like in one of the early scenes, Amanda kisses Mr. Bingley. Like, okay, she just grabs him and full out kisses him on the mouth, which is totally improper in that time period. And she's wanting to help Jane get with Mr. Bingley. So some of the decisions and choices she makes really bothered me a lot. But it's still a fun romp through the Pride and Prejudice world. It's a it's a bizarre 4-episode series. Even though the lead character makes ridiculous decisions, they're contrived to propel changes and crazy situations that almost force you to stare at the train wreck to consider what on earth will fix this. Yeah, it really is like watching an accident in slow motion, but it's an accident that has really funny, quirky things that happen. So it's entertaining. It is entertaining. Then did I write down it's 180 minutes? Yeah, it's only 180 minutes of your life, these 4 episodes. So it's not like you're committing a ton of time to it, right? It is what it is. And there is a scene, you guys, there is a scene where Amanda asks Mr. Darcy to get in a pool, a pond, if you will, the fountain area. It's so cleverly done. It's so funny that when it happens, you're like, oh my God, I laughed out loud. There were several moments when I laughed out loud watching the thing. I can recommend watching Lost in Austen as a modern screen adaptation of a Jane Austen book. Now, it is not a modern screen adaptation of Pride and Prejudice. It is like a modern day, like fan fiction bastardization of Pride and Prejudice, but it's funny and it's quirky and yeah, it is what it is. And it's fun. It's fun. Now, I did say that we were going to go back to this love and friendship item. We're going to do that now. I am going to give you guys, let me switch the screen here that I'm looking at. We're going to do the Jane Austen's Love and Friendship and Other Youthful Writings Deep Dive. You guys, pause with me for just a moment. Did I write this in here? Yeah. Let me state right up front, I'm aware there are Jane Austen scholars out there who will find this video's deep dive into Jane's juvenilia superficial, or amateurish, given their lifelong study and their full understanding of connections they've made and discussed over decades of academic pursuit. My hope is that regular fans and big scholars alike will forgive my mess-ups and recognize my enthusiasm as a good thing and not an affront to Austen studies, okay? For this readathon, I selected, where is it? Now, I selected the 2014 Penguin Classics edition of Love and Friendship and Other Youthful Writings for activity number 3. That prompt or that challenge was to read something by Jane Austen that's not one of her 6 main novels. Okay, so here it is. The way we usually do these reviews and discussions on SandySaysRead is to start with the specs. So let's start with that. This is Love and Friendship and Other Youthful Writings by Jane Austen. The stories were composed between 1787 until about 1794-ish. This edition is the 2014 Penguin Classics with editorial material copyrighted by Christine Alexander. This edition is 446 pages, including notes that go from pages 347 to 444. There's an introduction, a note on the text, and further reading suggestions, and a chronology. Let's see, in the announcement video, about what I was going to do for Jane Austen July, I questioned when Jane wrote Lady Susan. And in here, on page 14, like Roman numeral 14, it says, Lady Susan, often referred to as juvenilia, is not strictly speaking in this category, since the fair copy was made sometime after the completion of her notebook volumes. The date 1805 appears on 2 watermarks on the manuscript. It is generally agreed, however, that the novel was originally composed about 1794 when she was 18, following the last of her juvenilia in the manuscript notebooks. In style and content, it is linked with the robust commentary and literary techniques of the juvenilia. Yet, like much of the later juvenilia, it contains significant precedents that point to the mature author. Let's see. Another item I questioned during the announcement was the misspelling of friendship. I didn't find an answer to that in here, but I did notice that all of the misspellings and little quirkiness was preserved. And you know what? I'm okay with it. I'm good with that. All of the Jane consistently puts E before I in all the words, in grieve, in friendship, in all the words, she puts E before I. And okay, that's fine. Moving on. Let's see, something that stood out to me when reading Jane's juvenilia was, was how much she was like practicing the character development of some of the more odious and flighty of the female characters. Okay, we're going to talk about that when we get through here. There were a few of the ladies that were just a little bit odious, a little bit. I mean, Jane's sarcasm is biting. But let's kind of just go through what's in here and have some comments about it. The first volume. First volume is made up of Frederick and Elfrida, a novel. It takes up pages 7 through 14 and is done in 5 chapters. Okay, then we have Jack and Alice, a novel that goes from pages 15 to 30, and it is 9 chapters. This one seemed more about Lady Williams than about either Jack or Alice. Lady Williams was kind of a main fixture in it. But in this one, I fully see an early sketch of Mr. Darcy in Charles Adams. This is on page 27. Let's go there together. Page 27. Charles Adams, throughout this short little novel, he was quite the arrogant, aristocratic individual, okay? And when Alice sends her father to tell Charles that, she would like for him to propose to her. If he were to propose marriage, she would accept. And she's actually like inherited some money from her brother's death. So she thinks, hey, I'm of a station now where he should be willing to propose to me. So the father goes to Charles, and Charles is like, oh, how dare you? Okay, so page 27. Then, sir, I imagine my manners and address to be of the most polished kind. There is a certain elegance, a peculiar sweetness in them that I never saw equaled and cannot describe. Partiality aside, I am certainly more accomplished in every language, every science, every art, and everything than any other person in Europe. My temper is even, my virtues innumerable, myself unparalleled. Since such, sir, is my character, what do you mean by wishing me to marry your daughter? This guy, I mean, he's just like, I am too awesome to marry your daughter. And he actually has like no interest in marrying anyone because he considers himself so far above everyone. And I just saw this fellow as like a practice run for the early Mr. Darcy in like the early portion of Pride and Prejudice. I saw him that way. Yep. Okay, moving on. Edgar and Emma, a tale. This one goes from pages 31 to 34. It's in 3 chapters. Yeah, and Edgar. Okay, so Emma is just like, she's quite smitten with Edgar. She hardly gets to see him because he's missing for like 2 years. But when Edgar's family like is back in town, Emma asks after them. She asks, the way she does it is just hilarious because she's like so quiet and saying nothing during like this whole visit of their families. And then as they're getting ready to leave, she's like, oh my gosh, I must ask about your other children. Where are they? Where is Edgar? Yeah, she just has like this hissy fit asking about it. And the mother responds and she says, our children are all extremely well, but at present, most of them from home. Amy is with my sister Clayton, Sam at Eton, David with his uncle John, Jem and Will at Winchester, Kitty at Queen's Square, Ned with his grandmother, Hetty and Patty in a convent at Brussels, Edgar at college, Peter at nurse, and all the rest, except the 9 here, at home. It was with difficulty that Emma could refrain from tears on hearing of the absence of Edgar. She remained, however, tolerably composed till the Wilmots were gone, when, having no check to the overflowings of her grief, she gave free vent to them, and retiring to her own room, continued in tears the remainder of her life. The remainder of her life. Yeah, and I wrote here in the margin, going to college must have been a death sentence because, I mean, Edgar's at college. And she's going to go cry for the rest of her life over it. So yeah, going to college must have been a big problem. Let's see. Oh, and I also made a note. This also shows how Jane wrapped things up tidily and quickly in those early short writings. But I see most of these as characters, sketches, and practices. So I'm not trying to say that she like wrapped everything up really fast. I mean, she kind of did, but she was sketching out these characters quite a lot. Moving on, the next one up in volume 1 is Henry and Eliza, a novel. This one goes from pages 35 to 40, and it's just one twisty chapter. And in this one, we have a 3-month-old who is answering questions in it, and she grows up at age 18, she steals a 50-pound note from the people who have adopted her. And you guys, back then, I think a 50-pound note would be like a huge, big deal. But there we go. And in this story, I was kind of questioning, in this story and others, I was kind of questioning Jane's the ages that she was giving to these characters and what she was having these characters do at these different ages. I mean, she has some gentlemen in these stories who are quite older gentlemen who are still quite active. And then she has like this 3-year-old who's answering questions. In another story, we're going to see there's a 2-year-old toddler who is described quite not adultly, but able to do things that I wouldn't ascribe to a 2-year-old. Let's see. But I've got an example of this on page 82. Let me go over here. Yeah, we have a 13-year-old. What is this one doing? The eldest had been placed at the Royal Academy for Seamen at Portsmouth when about 13 years old, and from thence had been discharged on board of one of the vessels of a small fleet destined for Newfoundland. And I wrote out to the side, these ages are all over the place. And I don't know if that's because when Jane was younger, she just didn't have that firm grasp on what a person could do at a certain age, or if she was just practicing, right? Maybe we're just practicing and just throwing ages in there because we're practicing. I don't know. You guys can tell me in the comments below what you think about the different ages of characters in her early writings. The next one up in the first volume is The Adventures of Mr. Harley. This one is just page 40, just one page. And it's this poor dude who returns from 6 months at sea aboard a man of war. He hops in a stagecoach with 4 other passengers, and lo and behold, one of them is the gal he married before he left England. So, yeah, just a character sketch. Next up is Sir William Montague, An Unfinished Performance. And this is pages 42 to 43. And Sir William, he just wants to marry all the ladies, all the ladies. And we have Memoirs of Mr. Clifford, An Unfinished Tale. It goes from pages 45 to 46. And I found interesting in there, we're listing off like all the attributes of Mr. Clifford, all his accomplishments. And one of the things was he even has a wheelbarrow. Good for him. Next up, we have The Beautiful Cassandra, a novel in 12 chapters. This is pages 49 to 52. And we get 12 chapters in those pages 49 to 52. Each chapter is like a couple sentences for each chapter. And Beautiful Cassandra, she's basically going for a walk around the community with a new bonnet. And she takes down a pastry chef at one point. So clever. Next up is Amelia Webster, An Interesting and Well-Written Tale. This goes pages 53 to 55, and it is 7 letters. They are letters between Matilda Hervey, and Amelia Webster, letters between Beverly and George Hervey, letters between Maud Hervey and Amelia Webster, letters between Sally Hervey and Benjamin Barr, letters between Maud Hervey and Amelia Webster. I mean, everybody's writing to each other, right? Back and forth, back and forth. And then finally, Jack and Tom like wrap up all the marriages between these people who were writing back and forth to each other. I mean, it's a lot, you guys. Then we have The Visit, a comedy in 2 acts. This is pages 56 to 61. It is 4 scenes. We have Lord Fitzgerald is kind of sort of the main character. He blames a lot on his grandmother. We have The Mystery, an Unfinished Comedy. This is pages 62 to 64, and it is 3 scenes. Then we have The Three Sisters, a novel. This is pages 67 to 79, and it is 4 letters. We have Mary Stanhope. She has received a marriage proposal from Mr. Watts, who seems to be an average, arrogant guy. And Mary seems to be a spoiled, mean girl who doesn't want her sisters to get married before her. Now, the marriage settlement is sort of discussed throughout the letter that Georgiana sends to her friend, Anne. But it's not really a dowry conversation. The Regency idea of a prenup, you know, is what we're doing here. It's not pretty. It's not pretty. Mr. Watts and Mary are basically bickering over like the color of carriage that Mr. Watts is going to like have built or have commissioned for Mary once they get married. And she wants it to be like blue with silver spots or silver with blue spots. She wants it a certain way. And he's like, it'll be brown. He's like, well, then I'm not going to marry you. So they're like bickering over this stuff. And she's trying to be careful, though, because she wants to land him so that her sisters won't. Yeah, there you go. Interesting, crazy ladies in these stories. Detached Pieces. This is to her niece, Jane Anna Elizabeth Austen. It's pages 80 to 84, and it completes the first volume. What did I write? A beautiful description. Oh, she wrote a beautiful description of the different effects of sensibility on different minds. And it has like just this obvious scene that to me, it was obvious that this led to the scene of Marianne Dashwood when she was convalescing. I mean, I could see that. I could see how Jane Austen like picked up that piece from her past writing and fixed it up and used it for Marianne Dashwood's convalescence. Yeah. The second volume, Love and Friendship, a novel in a series of letters. Okay, guys, we're going to talk about this one for a minute. This one goes from pages 89 to 120, and it is 15 letters. We have Isabel to Laura, and Laura to Marianne, who is Isabel's daughter. Laura has had misfortunes. She's just turned 55, so I can relate. She's just turned 55, and Isabel wants her to share those misfortunes with her daughter. So Laura shares that at age 18, she was living with her parents in a cottage in the Vale of Usk when a gentleman and his servant knocked violently on the door one December night. Their servant let the two in, and the gentleman ended up proposing to Laura, like right there on the spot, right? Okay, and she married him. Then the gentleman, noble youth, is Edward Lindsay, and he's the son of the Baronet Sir Edward Lindsay. And he has a house in Bedfordshire, and he wanted his son to marry a woman named Lady Dorothea. The younger Edward has an Aunt Philippa in Middlesex, and a sister Augusta, but his mother has passed away. Aunt Philippa received Laura kindly, but Augusta, the sister, did not. She was very cool toward her new sister-in-law. Augusta tattled to their father, so Sir Edward came to Middlesex in his fancy carriage, which young Edward and Laura promptly stole. They just stole the carriage, and they traveled to Edward's friend's house. The friend's name was Augustus. You guys, we got to keep all these August names straight. Okay. The friend's name was Augustus, and he was married to a woman named Sophia. And she received Laura very kindly. They became fast friends. The crazy thing is Augustus and Sophia were living beyond their means and racking up debts. They married against their parents' wishes, so they've been cut off financially. So Augustus was thrown into prison, and he was sentenced to be hanged. Edward goes to assist Augustus, leaving Laura and Sophia to struggle alone. So Laura's parents have passed away by this point, and the girls go into a town where they happen upon a gentleman whom Laura recognizes as her grandfather. He also recognizes her and Sophia and a pair of young men who happen to come into the lodgings while the reunion is happening. He gives each young person 50 pounds, and then he leaves. Here you go. Okay, so the two young men steal the 50 pounds from Laura and Sophia. So the two young men, they've got 200 pounds now. Off they go. They leave and go... So Laura and Sophia also leave and go to a relative of Sophia's where they embezzle money from a stingy older man, Guy McDonald. They embezzle it and they help his daughter, Janetta, have this money and use it. This ends badly, of course. This ends badly and the girls are cast out again. So Laura and Sophia discover they're cast out. And so they're like wandering through a village and they discover an overturned carriage. The overturned carriage has Edward and Augustus in it, and they're dying. The carriage overturned, right? They're dying. So this is all sadness. This is terrible. Sophia takes it very badly, okay? I mean, Laura, the one who's writing the letters, Laura is obviously distraught over her Edward dying here. But Sophia, she like lays on the ground and goes into like this... She's very sad that her Augustus has just died. So Laura gets Sophia up and gets her to this little cottage. Let's see. There's a widow with a plain daughter named Bridget. We have to notice that Bridget is very plain. Okay, Sophia falls ill enough to die, and Laura is basically alone again. Well, I want to go to page 114 because on page 114, we have Sophia's like dying words to Laura. This is her advice. Beware of fainting fits. Though at the time they may be refreshing and agreeable, yet believe me, they will in the end, too often repeated, and at improper seasons, prove destructive to your constitution. My fate will teach you this. I die a martyr to my grief for the loss of Augustus. One fatal swoon has cost me my life. Beware of swoons, dear Laura. Yeah. I thought that was awesome. Okay, so Laura thinks to walk away from the village she detests now, and a stagecoach overtakes her at night. Okay, so she gets into the stagecoach, and I thought it was interesting that she's in this stagecoach. She has lost everything. Okay, her parents are dead. Her Edward is dead. Sophia, the friend who was her just bosom buddy, is dead. Okay, everyone around her is dead. She's in this stagecoach alone in the world, and she's so disturbed by someone in the stagecoach snoring. And she just can't get over the fact that this lout is snoring. How dare this person disrupt everyone with his snoring? Anyway, by morning, she discovers her husband's family is in the stagecoach. It's the baronet, Sir Edward himself. And then the Philander and Gustavus, these two guys who stole her £100 from her and Sophia, they're in the basket. They end up being actors in plays. They squandered their inheritance from Laura's mom and aunt, and now they go around acting. Let's see if we can see this on page 118. Hold on. Yeah. Oh, I cannot now determine, but certain it is that when we had reached out, okay, these are the two guys talking about it. I cannot now determine, but certain it is that when we had reached our 15th year, we took the £900 and ran away. Having obtained this prize, we were determined to manage it with the economy and not to spend it either with folly or extravagance. To this purpose, we therefore divided it into 9 parcels, one of which we devoted to victuals, the second to drink, the third to housekeeping, the fourth to carriages, the fifth to horses, the sixth to servants, the seventh to amusements, the eighth to clothes, and the ninth to silver buckles. Having thus arranged our expenses for 2 months, for we expected to make the £900 last as long, we hastened to London and had the good luck to spend it in 7 weeks and a day, which was 6 days sooner than we had intended. As soon as we had thus happily disencumbered ourselves from the weight of so much money, we began to think of returning to our mothers, but accidentally hearing that they were both starved to death, we gave over the design and determined to engage ourselves to some strolling company of players, as we had always a turn for the stage. So they basically used up all the money that they had stolen from their mothers, and their mothers starved to death. So they decided, well, let's take to the stage instead. I got the impression, I mean, if you read Jane Austen's stuff, she doesn't really speak too highly of the stage and actors and stuff in her works, which I thought was interesting. And you guys can correct me if you've seen her speak more highly of it in other places, but there we go. Okay. Like I brought it in here. Like the characters of Mansfield Park rehearsing lovers' vows while the patriarch of the family is away, the cast-off grandsons join an acting troupe seems to be an early combination of actors. I mean, it seemed to me like maybe Jane Austen was making a statement about that kind of individual. Laura ends up with a living from Sir Edward, and she just feels that she's been very put upon. So she's writing the letters to her friend's daughter. Okay, that's that one. Next up in volume 2 is Lesley Castle, an unfinished novel in letters. This one goes from pages 123 to 149. It is 10 letters, plus there's a mini letter in one of them. You guys, some of these vapid women are written with biting satire. Page 126. Let's go to page 126. See what I was looking at. Oh, yeah, you guys. Okay, so Miss Charlotte Lutterell. That's how I'm pronouncing it, Lutterell. She is awful, you guys. She's writing a letter about what's going on in her life, and her sister, Eloisa, she is engaged to a guy named Henry. Henry has fallen off of his horse. He's taken a tumble and he lays dying. Okay, so this is how Charlotte is writing about it. I never remember suffering any vexation equal to what I experienced on last Monday, when my sister came running to me in the storeroom with her face as white as a whipped syllabub, and told me that Hervey had been thrown from his horse, had fractured his skull, and was pronounced by his surgeon to be in the most imminent danger. Good God, said I, you don't say so? Why, what in the name of heaven will become of all the victuals? The food. What's going to happen to all this food? We shall never be able to eat it while it is good. However, we'll call in the surgeon to help us. I shall be able to manage the sirloin myself. My mother will eat the soup, and you and the doctor must finish the rest. So her sister, who's engaged to this guy she really loves, has just told her, my fiance is about to die. And she's like telling her how they're going to eat all the food. This is biting sarcasm. I loved it. Okay, so here I was interrupted by seeing my poor sister fall down to appearance lifeless upon one of the chests where we keep our table linen. I immediately called my mother and the maids, and at last we brought her to herself again. As soon as ever she was sensible, she expressed a determination of going instantly to see Henry, and was so wildly bent on this scheme that we had the greatest difficulty in the world to prevent her putting it in execution. Blah, blah, blah. And on we go. This chick, she's awful. Oh, let's see. Miss Margaret. Okay, one of the letters, some of the letters are from and to Miss Margaret Lesley and Miss Charlotte Luttrell. Also, the new Lady Lesley, to and from Miss Charlotte Luttrell. Also, we have Mrs. Marlowe, to and from Eloisa. Oh, you guys, I was so happy to see that happen. There is a character, she's already married, Mrs. Marlowe, and she met Eloisa, after Henry dies, okay? And she meets with Eloisa, and she's like the only person who is aware that Eloisa might be sad. It's like everyone around Eloisa is like, oh, we got to eat up all this food, and you really need to stop crying. And oh my gosh, this is such an inconvenience to everyone around you, Eloisa. My goodness, do you not see how this is affecting everyone around you? And Mrs. Marlowe, at least, is very kind to her. And so they start a correspondence, which is really nice. Let's see. The novel may be unfinished, but Jane did kind of wrap up one of the plots concerning the Miss Lesley's brother, whom we learn in the very beginning has lost his wife to some other guy. But in the final letter, we learn that he's gotten his first marriage annulled and is married to a nice lady in Italy and wants his sisters to bring his toddler to him. So that's nice. So it is an unfinished novel. There's a lot of stuff that could be worked out and more things discussed, but that plot point, she did wrap up real nicely. Next, we have in this, in the second volume, The History of England. And this is from the reign of Henry IV to the death of Charles I by a partial, prejudiced, and ignorant historian. And there's also a note that says there will be very few dates in this history. And I thought that was clever, and it just like sets the tone for what Jane did in this section. And it's pages 151 to 166, and it's funny, you guys. It's just funny. It's a little bit satirical. I recommend, if you read nothing else in here, read that, because it's just kind of silly. She talks about Shakespeare. Okay. A collection of letters is up next, and it goes from pages 169 to 187, and it's just 5 letters. With a mini letter built in. And I think it's just practice writing for the future. Then there's a section called Scraps. It's pages 189 to 198. It's a handful of letters and a play. Then we get to the third volume. In the third volume, the first item in there is Evelyn. It's a novel. It's pages 203 to 213. And I wrote, I don't know what to make of this story. And yeah, I don't. There's a fellow named Mr. Gower, and he goes to a village named Evelyn. And this guy, he is either absent-minded and thoughtless, or he's a complete fool. You guys, he is like a caricature of a guy. He's weird. And I almost expected Jane to tell us that Evelyn, the town, was a fairy colony. Like, I almost expected that supernatural element to come in. I know she doesn't write fairies, but I really expected something like that to happen at the end, because this guy, he goes to Evelyn, and he goes to this inn, and like the first woman he meets is like, she says there are no houses for let here, and he wants a place to like either purchase or rent. And she tells him there's nothing like that here. Everyone here enjoys good health and happiness, and no one has a place to let because everyone wants to stay here. He's like, ah, darn. Okay. And she like gives him some food and water. And he's like, are you sure there's nowhere? And she's like, you are such a kind gentleman that it grieves me to see you unhappy and in want of something. What can I do for you? And he's like, well, I really need to find a place to live. I really want a place to rent here. And she's like, you know what? There's this couple that lives nearby. Go there and they will help you. He goes to this house, this home, and the couple is like, yes, you may have our house. Just like that. Like they feed him a bunch of food. They give him all this like wine and food and pastries. And they're like, we want you to be happy here. And he's like, well, I would like to take your home. They're like, okay, sure. So they basically like pack up to leave. And their two daughters come in and he's like, oh, your eldest daughter is beautiful. And they're like, would you like to marry her? Yeah, I would. So, well, here, have her. She can marry her. Yay. And so he marries her. The whole thing was just so bizarre. I just fully expected that it was going to be a fairy tale, right? It was so bizarre. And cleverly done in making this guy looks kind of silly because he marries her. They're happy. And she says something and it makes him go, oh my gosh, a rose. It was a rose. She picks up a rose off of the ground and he goes, Rose, that's the name of my sister. I was coming here because I was going to find out news of this fellow that my sister wants to marry. He just absent-mindedly stayed in this village and married this gal instead of going on this quest. So he goes on this quest. And because he left, his wife that he's married is like, oh, I miss him. And she dies. So he comes back to, he fails in his quest. He comes back and discovers that his wife is dead and writes to his family to say, hey, I didn't succeed in this thing. And I'm so sorry that I've, didn't get back to you right away. I hope, Rose, that you didn't think I forgot about you. And the family writes back to him and it's like, we're glad to hear that you're, happy and Rose is dead. We thought that you had forgotten about us and she died of a broken heart over that. He's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sad. So he ends up marrying the woman from the inn. It's just so quick I'm not doing a very good job of describing it. It's so quick in the things that happen to this guy and with this guy, and he just moves on from the things so quickly that I found him to be very, very Wickham-like. He wasn't like taking advantage of these women. He was just moving on from everything that happened. Oh, well, that didn't work out, but I'm happy because I got this house. Well, that didn't work out, but I'm happy because I have this wife. Well, my wife died, but I'm happy because I have a new wife. It was weird. I really expected Evelyn to be a fairy colony. It wasn't. Next up in that section is the novel Catharine, or The Bower. Catharine goes from pages 215 to 257. And Catharine's childhood friends, Cecilia and Mary Wynne, helped her build the bower at the end of her aunt's garden. Now these two girls, they ended up moving away when their parents died. You guys. They moved away, and the eldest, Cecilia, had to move to the East Indies. Like, one of her relations paid for her passage and stuff so she could move to the East Indies, and she found a man who was wealthy and he married her. And so she's set up well there, but she's not happy there. The guy he's wealthy, but he's not great. So she's not happy. And she and Catharine continue corresponding by letter. And so Catharine knows she's not happy. And Mary, they continue corresponding as well. And there is a really good friendship among those three. Okay, so Catharine, Cecilia, and Mary, they just have a really good friendship. And when Catharine goes to this bower, this arbor at the end of the garden, she goes there and she finds it soothing. It is a good, pleasant place for her to go where she can reminisce on her friends. And that sense of friendship in this story was just pleasing, very nice. I really liked that friendship thing that was happening there. That was good. But then Catharine becomes a little bit weird and flighty. Okay, she meets up with a gal named Camilla. Camilla Stanley. She visits with her parents. Let's see, page 220. Camilla's a piece of work. And we learn about Camilla. All her ideas were towards the elegance of her appearance, the fashion of her dress, and the admiration she wished them to excite. She professed a love of books without reading, was lively without wit, and generally good-humored without merit. Such was Camilla Stanley. So Catharine doesn't consider herself any great beauty, but she just kind of gets along with Camilla, and she tries to talk politics with her and doesn't always succeed because, you know, Camilla she wants to talk about fashion and her looks and that sort of thing. Yeah, it's interesting. Okay, so let's see. Camilla has a really positive view of how great Cecilia's marriage in the East Indies is. And Catharine tries to tell her, well, I don't think it's really that great. I think Cecilia's unhappy. Doesn't work out. They don't agree on that. Then, while everyone is at a ball at the Dudleys one evening, Catharine is home with a toothache. And Camilla's brother, Edward Stanley, shows up from France. And he reminds me, you guys, he reminds me of a mix of Willoughby and Wickham. Okay, when we first meet him, he is so just like flippant and just careless and carefree. He is like the embodiment of Wickham and Willoughby. The way he just sachets in, and he comes to Catharine's house. He comes to Mrs. Percival's house, the aunt's house, and he's like, "Hey, you want to go to this ball?" And she's like, "Well, I'm feeling better. I did have a toothache. That's why I stayed home, but I'm feeling better. And sure, we can go, but we shouldn't go in the same carriage." He's like, "Don't worry about that. Let's go." And he like drags her to the carriage. He gets her to the ball. And when they get to the ball, she's like, "Well, we shouldn't go in together. You should go in first, and then I should be announced after you." He's like, "Don't worry about it. Let's go." So he's not worried at all about how improper it looks that he's taking her in. It's totally improper. In that day and age, it was totally improper for them to be behaving that way. Oh, let's see. When we first meet him, he drags Kitty. Catharine's nickname is Kitty. He drags Kitty, who she's acting quite Lydia-like in that moment too. Okay, because she's like laughing and joking and very excited by his behavior also. Okay, so he drags Kitty to the ball in a most improper way. Edward continues the impertinence by bringing Kitty to the head of the dance, which causes the other ladies, Camilla and his mother included, to get jealous and angry. Everyone gets over it. I mean, Kitty does apologize later for being the one who was the head of the dance. She didn't realize how improper that looked or how it might offend the other women there. She does apologize for it, and everyone forgives her. But Edward and Kitty, they act foolishly. And Edward pays so much attention to her. And he like takes her walking in the garden. And Mrs. Percival, the aunt, is like, "Edward's got to go. He is paying too much attention to my niece. He's not being proper." And she is acting a fool. She's just being too improper. We got to do something about this. So Mrs. Percival gets Mr. Stanley to tell his son to go away. And Edward does go away. And Kitty, she remains a ridiculous girl. And then the story's done. Like Jane stopped. She didn't finish the story. But her nephew, James Edward, he did finish the story. He gave it an installment in 1815 or 1816 in there, and again in 1845. So he did finish it off, gave it a resolution. But the resolution is that Kitty never got married. She just remained a silly girl. As Mr. Bennet might say, she remained a silly girl into the end. Yeah. Okay. Then we have Lady Susan, a novel, pages 261 to 342. It is 41 letters and a conclusion. And I did a discussion of Lady Susan at the end of Jane Austen July last year. And if I remember, I'll put a link to that in the drop-down box below. So, because there's probably going to be a better discussion of it there than I'm going to wrap this up pretty quickly here. There'll be a better discussion of it there. Basically, Lady Susan is reprehensible. She is awful. She's a terrible, terrible woman. She's a flirt. Okay, she's a flirt. She has a daughter, but she doesn't want her daughter to marry better than she does. And she mistreats men. She leads them on, and it's all, we learn all of this. We see all of this through letters that she sends back and forth with her friends, with people that she considers her friends that she also would lead into this flirtatious and just reprehensible lifestyle. That wraps up Jane Austen July and the July stuff here at Sandy Says Read. I want to say thumbs up for learning more about Jane Austen's writing and seeing some of those connections. At least I saw some connections from her early writing and how it influenced some of the character development. Some of those character sketches influenced those characters in the future. Yeah, I saw it and I liked it. I thought it was cool. You guys share in the comments below some of the characters that you saw in her early writings, how you saw those influences on the Mr. Darcy and the Mr. Willoughby and the Caroline Bingley. I mean, what did you see when you looked at her early writings? What did you see? How cool was it to you? All right, I think that's it. Shall we move on to the next thing? Thumbs up. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you in the next one.